Since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 24, 2022, the Russian authorities have launched a new series of indoctrination mechanisms aimed at the Russian youth to be sure that young people would first be supportive of the regime and second, be motivated to go to war if needed. The Kremlin's anxiety toward the youth is well-founded. Sociological surveys confirm youth is the less loyal part of the population. It is less supportive of the regime, of the war, less nostalgic toward the Soviet Union, and less dependent on state media, especially television. In this video, we explore the Soviet roots of today's military-patriotic education before looking at the current indoctrination patterns and analyze the different forms that military-patriotic education takes in today's Russia.
The Soviet regime relied heavily on mass indoctrination of school-aged children, with military training as an inalienable component of Soviet patriotism. Supervised by the Volunteer Society for Assistance to the Army, Air Force, and Navy, DSOF, basic military preparation was a mandatory and universal class for both genders. It disappeared during the perestroika years before getting gradually reintroduced under Putin's presidencies. Step by step, the state program for the patriotic education of citizens of the Russian Federation, launched as early as 2001, has rebuilt Soviet infrastructure for bringing up young people and instilling in them, as stated in the program, love for motherland, devotion to fatherland, and willingness to serve its interests and defend it, up to and including self-sacrifice. Iterations of the state program, renewed every 5 years, have emphasized the military component of patriotism and the theme of ultimate sacrifice for the motherland. The rise in military-patriotic education is parallel to the sacralization of the Great Patriotic War as the cornerstone of collective memory in today's Russia. A large part of the population supports the idea of military-patriotic training at school, considering it a good way to instill discipline in teenagers. As early as 2004, a Public Opinion Foundation poll found that 89% of respondents felt that more attention needed to be paid to patriotic education. The last data from before the war, a Legitrus survey commissioned by a Norwegian team in spring of 2021, indicates that 75% of respondents support military education versus 25% who oppose it, with a strong correlation by age. The oldest are the most in favor, the youngest, the ones directly affected, the least. The implementation of military-patriotic curriculum is curated by the Ministry of Defense in partnership with the Ministry of Education. Several institutions contribute, such as the Russian Organization for Defensive Sports, or ROSTO, which trains hundreds of thousands of young people for specialized careers in the Army through sporting and technological activities related to, for example, aviation, automobiles, tanks, ships, and military technologies. It also manages about 1,000 military and sports clubs and supervises the top athletes competing for Russia. Many other institutions have been revamped from Soviet times, such as the Center for Civic and Patriotic Education for the Children and Youth of Russia, the Memorial Center for the Armed Forces of Russia, the Foundation for the Heroes of the Soviet Union and the Russian Federation, the Association for Military Memory, and others. Their mission is to support both veterans associations and patriotic military education for youth. A central institution in that huge network has been the All-Russia National Military Patriotic Social Movement Association, also called the Youth Army, or Yunarmia. Yunarmia claims 500,000 members, trained to be future Army personnel and patriotic citizens. For those aspiring to a military career, cadet schools, spread across the country, offer free education and guaranteed access to military professions. State actors are not the only ones working on military patriotic education. The Russian Orthodox Church, too, has engaged in that endeavor. with some parishes offering Orthodox military-patriotic education activities during the weekend or the summer. Patriarch Kirill's official engagement in support of the war provides a religious justification for it and accelerates the commitment of the church administration to military-patriotic education.
Подвиг самопожертвования при защите Родины. На этих словах должна основываться воинская отвага, мужество, готовность жизнь свою положить за други своя. Сия есть жизнь вечная.
Other parastate groups, such as the various Cossack organizations, also propagate military-patriotic education through several hundreds of schools with Cossack attribution. Around 200,000 children are brought up in such schools in the Krasnodar and the Rostov regions alone. At a more grassroots level, thousands of small, private, paramilitary and patriotic education centers and clubs have mushroomed all over Russia, in cities big and small, often offering Russian martial arts such as Sambo in parallel with extreme sports training. At school, the military training curriculum has been reintroduced under the name of Oblige. Oblige covers a wide range of topics, from preparedness for emergency situations and introductions to medical first aid and healthy living, to initiation into state security issues and preparation for military service. It has been complemented by the Ready for Work and Defense program, introduced in the 1930s. More motivated pupils can participate in extracurricular activities during their leisure times, such as the military sports games Zarnitsa, Orleanok, and Pobieda, which reproduce military actions, especially from World War II. Those attending military-patriotic clubs can participate in ceremonial duties, such as guardianship, marching, arms drill, historical event reenactment, and more. One of the most prestigious activities is to be selected as a memory guard for days of military glory celebrations related to May 9th, celebrated as the anniversary of Soviet victory in 1945. With the full-scale war in Ukraine, military-patriotic education has become a cornerstone of the regime's indoctrination practices, with new classes on patriotism taught both at schools and in universities. Old practices inherited from the Second World War have also been revived, such as having pupils write letters to soldiers and contribute to war logistics by producing uniforms or candles, all signs that Russia has entered into a long, protracted war mindset. As in many other countries in the world, the military offers mechanisms for promotion on the social ladder. A large majority of recruits in cadet schools, youth army, and other military-patriotic education institutions come from economically depressed cities and rural Russia. At least until the 2022 escalation of the war, those with higher social and cultural capital were able to avoid military-patriotic activities. This situation has changed today, with military-patriotic indoctrination now reaching all segments of Russia's youth through mandatory classes at schools and in universities. Yet, these social differences remain. The Kremlin has long promoted the notion of civilians as active defenders of the domestic order and of the motherland. But until Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine, it was mostly a symbolic performance. This is no longer the case. It remains to be seen whether new steps in military-patriotic indoctrination can succeed in keeping youth ready to make the ultimate sacrifice, or if they will accelerate the already existing polarization among Russia's youth.